My wife Julia just posted another selfie from our kitchen, captioned, "Morning coffee with my amazing hubby." The camera didn't catch me rolling my eyes or muttering, "Yeah, amazing at paying the bills," into my cereal bowl. I'm Simon Carter, 38, and I design buildings for a living. Not glamorous enough for Instagram, apparently. Julia Carter, 34, designs her entire life around getting likes from strangers who think our marriage is hashtag goals. If they only knew. "See, can you move? You're ruining my lighting," Julia said, adjusting her ring light for the 15th time this morning. She wore a silk robe that cost more than most people's rent, her blonde hair perfectly curled despite claiming she just woke up like this. "Sorry, I thought this was our kitchen, not your studio," I replied, grabbing my coffee and architectural plans. "Don't be dramatic. This takes 2 minutes." 2 minutes turned into 20, like always. Julia posed with her organic smoothie, her yoga mat, her new skincare routine. Each photo required multiple takes, different angles, strategic placement of our expensive appliances in the background. My phone buzzed. A text from my college buddy Donnie. "Saw Julia's story. You look thrilled, man." I typed back. "Living the dream. If the dream involves being a prop in someone else's fantasy." The funny thing is, we used to be happy. Back when Julia worked at a marketing firm and actually talked to me instead of talking at her phone camera. Back before she discovered she could make money by pretending our life was perfect online. Now our conversations went like this. "How was your day, babe?" "Amazing. I got 3,000 likes on my lunch post." "Oh, and Eric thinks we should collaborate on a home renovation series." Eric Lambert, Julia's business partner. 40 years old, drives an Audi he definitely can't afford, and shows up at our house more often than the mailman. He's one of those guys who calls everyone buddy and wears expensive watches to hide the fact that he's basically unemployed. "What kind of collaboration?" I asked, though I already suspected I wouldn't like the answer. "Nothing major, just documenting our renovation process. Eric has connections with some lifestyle brands. Our renovation process." As if Eric would know a hammer from a screwdriver. "Julia, I'm an architect. If we're renovating anything, I think I can handle it without Eric's expertise in taking selfies." She laughed, but not in a good way. "See, you design office buildings. Eric understands lifestyle content, audience engagement, brand partnerships. This could be huge for us." Us. Right. I remember our engagement party 3 years ago. Julia's parents, the Dubois family, had rented out the country club. Old money, the kind of people who pronounce economics like it's a foreign language and think anyone who actually works for a living is beneath them. Julia was telling everyone how excited she was to be marrying up financially, joking about being a gold digger. Her friends laughed. Her parents smiled those tight smiles rich people use when they're pretending something tasteless is charming. That's when I dropped the bomb. "Good thing we signed that prenup this morning, right, honey?" The silence was beautiful. Julia's face went white. Her mother actually gasped. Her father looked like he'd swallowed his golf ball. "You what?" Julia stammered. "The prenuptial agreement," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You know, the one that protects both our assets in case this whole marriage thing doesn't work out." Very romantic, I know. I wasn't lying. We had signed it that morning, though Julia clearly thought it was just paperwork her parents' lawyer had prepared to protect their money from me. She hadn't bothered reading it carefully. Big mistake. The prenup was ironclad and mutual. If either of us cheated or abandoned the marriage, we'd leave with exactly what we brought into it. Julia brought her trust fund and her parents' money. I brought my business, my house, and my savings. What Julia didn't realize was that over the past 3 years, I'd been very careful about keeping our finances separate while she spent freely, assuming everything was ours. Now, watching her pose for another fake candid photo, I was starting to think that prenup might come in handy sooner than I'd expected. "See, you're staring," Julia said without looking up from her phone, just admiring my wife's dedication to authenticity. She missed the sarcasm entirely. "Aw, thanks, babe. Oh, Eric's coming over later to discuss some content ideas. Can you make sure the living room looks good?" Define good. You know, like we're successful and happy. Right. I'll hide all evidence that we're normal people who sometimes leave dishes in the sink. After Julia disappeared upstairs to get ready for Eric's visit, I sat in my home office reviewing blueprints for a new office complex. Real work, the kind that actually pays bills instead of just generating likes. My phone rang. "Donnie, Dude, please tell me you're not actually doing a home renovation show with that Instagram clown. How did you? Never mind. Julia posted about it, didn't she? Story, post, and 3 different hashtags. Also, Eric commented with way too many fire emojis for a married man. I looked out my window and saw Eric's leased Audi pulling into our driveway, right on time. Speak of the devil, he's here. See, I'm saying this as your friend. Something's not right about that guy. He's always around. He's got no visible income, and he looks at Julia like she's a lottery ticket. Thanks for the warning, but I can handle Eric. Can you handle Julia? That was the question, wasn't it? Eric knocked on our front door like he owned the place. 3 sharp raps, then he just walked in. Carter, how's the architecture business, buddy? Steady. How's the influencer consulting business? Booming, man. Absolutely booming. Is Julia ready? We've got a lot to cover today. Julia appeared at the top of the stairs wearing a different outfit, her third of the day. Eric, perfect timing. C was just leaving for work. I wasn't leaving for work. It was Saturday. Actually, I thought I'd stick around, learn about this collaboration. Eric's smile faltered slightly. Oh, well, it's pretty technical stuff. Audience demographics, engagement algorithms, brand synergy. Probably boring for someone in your field. Try me. Julia came downstairs, her heels clicking on our hardwood floors. See, don't you have that project deadline coming up? I did have a deadline, but it wasn't urgent. Still, I could take a hint. Sure thing. I'll be in my office if you need anything. But I didn't go to my office. I went to the kitchen, which shared a wall with the living room. Our house had great acoustics, something Julia had never considered during her many phone calls with friends. Okay, he's gone, Julia said. God, he's been so clingy lately. Maybe he suspects something, Eric replied. Suspects what, exactly? C doesn't suspect anything. He's too busy with his buildings to notice what's happening in his own house. Still, we should be careful. If he finds out before we're ready, he won't find out. And even if he does, what's he going to do? I'm his wife. This is my house too. Not exactly, thanks to that prenup. I just think we should move faster, Eric said. The longer we wait, the more complicated this gets. Eric, relax. I know what I'm doing. C signed that prenup thinking he was protecting himself, but he basically gave me a roadmap for getting out of this marriage with everything I want. My blood went cold. Getting out of the marriage? You sure he won't fight it? With what? He's got his little architecture firm and his savings account. I've got my family's money, the house, and now our brand. Once we launch this renovation series, I'll have my own income stream. I won't need him anymore. Our brand, our renovation series. She was planning to cut me out of my own life. What about the house? It's in his name, marital property. I've been living here for 3 years, contributing to the household. Any decent lawyer can argue I have a claim to half. Actually, any decent lawyer who read our prenup would tell her she had a claim to exactly nothing. But I wasn't about to correct her. And once the divorce is final, Eric asked, then we can stop sneaking around, go public with our relationship, build something real together. I'd heard enough. I slipped back to my office and closed the door, my mind racing. Julia was cheating on me with Eric. They were planning to use our marriage as content for their social media empire, then divorce me and take half of everything I'd worked for. There was just one problem with their plan. They'd forgotten about that prenup they'd been so upset about at our engagement party. I pulled out my copy and read through it again, smiling for the first time all day. Julia was right about one thing. The prenup was a roadmap, but she'd been reading the map upside down. My phone buzzed with a text from Julia. Working late with Eric. Don't wait up. It was 2 in the afternoon. I texted back. No problem. Take all the time you need. And I meant it. The more time she spent with Eric, the more evidence she'd give me. I opened my laptop and started a new folder. Insurance policy. Time to document everything. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own home. Not the sneaky, hiding in bushes kind of detective. More like the architect I actually was, methodically documenting structural problems before they brought down the whole building. Julia made it easy. She was so confident in her plan, so sure I was clueless, that she stopped being careful. Monday morning. Eric and I are doing a content planning session at the Marriott downtown. Their lobby has amazing natural light. Tuesday evening. We're having dinner with potential sponsors. Might run late. Wednesday afternoon. Eric thinks we should scout some renovation inspiration. We're driving to that new development in Newton. Each excuse was more ridiculous than the last. I started keeping a log. Monday, 10:30 a.m. Julia claims to be at Marriott for content planning. Posted Instagram story from coffee shop across town at 11:15 a.m. Eric's Audi visible in parking lot through window. Tuesday, 7:45 p.m. Dinner with sponsors turns into romantic Italian restaurant. Julia posts story of wine and candles, quickly deletes it. Screenshot saved. Wednesday, 2:20 p.m. Scouting renovation inspiration involves Eric picking Julia up in his Audi while I'm supposedly at work. I was actually in my home office and watched the whole thing. The breakthrough came Thursday morning. Julia was in the shower, and her iPad was charging on the kitchen counter. She'd been using it to edit photos the night before and forgot to close her apps. I wasn't snooping, exactly. The screen lit up when I walked by, showing her photo gallery. And there, in a folder labeled Private Do Not Share, were pictures I definitely wasn't supposed to see. Julia in lingerie I'd never seen before. Julia and Eric at restaurants I'd never been to. Julia wearing a necklace Eric must have given her because I sure as hell hadn't. But the worst one was a selfie of them together in what looked like a hotel room. Julia was wearing my MIT t-shirt, the one she'd claimed she'd accidentally donated to charity. Eric was shirtless in the background, and they both looked very comfortable. I took screenshots with my phone, then closed the folder and went back to my coffee like nothing happened. "Morning, babe," Julia said, coming downstairs in her robe. "You're up early. Couldn't sleep. Big presentation today." She kissed my cheek, the same cheek she'd been kissing Eric in those photos. "Well, don't stress too much. Oh, I might be late tonight. Eric and I are meeting with a potential investor for the renovation series." "Another investor. This project's really taking off. It's going to be huge, see. Life-changing." She wasn't wrong about that. After Julia left for her yoga class, which I knew was actually brunch with Eric because she'd posted about it last week, I called Donnie. "I need a favor," I said. "Finally ready to admit something's wrong? Something's very wrong. Can you meet me for lunch and bring your lawyer brain?" Donnie was a corporate attorney, the kind who specialized in contracts and protecting people's assets. We'd been friends since college, back when he was just a guy who could drink beer through his nose, and I was just a guy who thought that was hilarious. We met at Murphy's Pub, a dive bar near my office that served decent burgers and didn't have the kind of ambience Julia would ever post about. "Okay, lay it on me," Donnie said, settling into our booth with a beer. I showed him the screenshots, the timeline I'd been keeping, and most importantly, the prenup. Donnie whistled low. "Dude, she's planning to divorce you and take half your stuff, but she signed away her right to any of it." That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. This prenup is bulletproof. Mutual infidelity clause, asset protection, even a clause about social media and public embarrassment. Your wife basically signed a contract saying that if she cheats on you, she leaves with nothing but her personal belongings. What about her claim that the house is marital property? Not according to this. The house was yours before marriage. You've maintained separate finances, and she explicitly waived any claim to it. Plus, if she's been using the house for her affair, he grinned. See, she's not just going to lose the house, she's going to lose everything. What about her trust fund and her parents' money? That stays with her, obviously. But everything she's built during your marriage, the social media accounts, the brand partnerships, even the renovation series she's planning, that's all tied to being your wife and living in your house. Once she's not your wife anymore, she loses her entire online persona. Exactly. And if Eric thinks he's going to step into your role, he's in for a surprise. This prenup doesn't just protect your assets, it protects your image rights too. She can't use photos of your house, your life, or your marriage for commercial purposes after a divorce. I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. So what do? Document everything. Get proof of the affair that will hold up in court. Then file for divorce and watch her world collapse. I don't want to destroy her, Donnie. I just want her to face consequences. See, she's planning to destroy you. She's been cheating on you, lying to you, and plotting to take everything you've worked for. You don't owe her anything. He was right, but it still felt harsh. Until I got home that evening and found Eric's car in my driveway again. This time, I didn't go to my office to eavesdrop. I walked straight into the living room. Julia and Eric were sitting very close together on my couch, looking at something on Eric's laptop. They jumped apart when I walked in. See, you're home early, Julia said, her face flushed. Presentation got moved to tomorrow. What are you two working on? Eric closed the laptop quickly. Just some boring content strategy stuff, demographics and engagement rates. Mind if I take a look? I'm curious about this renovation series. It's not ready yet, Julia said. Still in the early planning stages. Right. Well, don't let me interrupt. I'll just grab a beer and… Actually, Eric stood up. I should get going. Early meeting tomorrow. He gathered his things quickly, avoiding eye contact. See you later, Julia. Nice seeing you, C. After Eric left, Julia busied herself cleaning up non-existent messes. So, I said, how long have you been sleeping with him? She froze, her back to me. What did you say? I asked how long you've been sleeping with Eric. It's a simple question. She turned around, and I watched her face cycle through surprise, denial, and finally anger. How dare you accuse me of cheating? I'm working, C, building something for our future. Our future, or your future with Eric. You're being paranoid and controlling. This is exactly why I need Eric's support. You don't believe in me or my work. I've seen the photos, Julia. Her face went white. What photos? The ones on your iPad, the hotel room, the restaurants, the necklace he gave you. Should I go on? For a moment, she looked genuinely scared. Then the anger came back, stronger than before. You went through my private photos? That's a violation of my privacy. They were open on your iPad in our kitchen. But sure, let's talk about violations of privacy. Or violations of marriage vows. Nothing happened. Julia, there's a photo of you wearing my MIT shirt with Eric shirtless in the background, in a hotel room. What exactly do you think nothing means? She sat down heavily on the couch. Okay, fine. Yes, Eric and I have gotten close. But it's not what you think. What do I think? You think we're having some sordid affair, but it's not like that. We connect on a creative level. We understand each other's vision. Is that what we're calling it now? See, our marriage has been over for months. We both know it. We're just going through the motions. I didn't know it was over, but thanks for the update. Don't act like you're surprised. When was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you showed any interest in my work, my dreams? When was the last time your dreams included me? She didn't have an answer for that. I want a divorce, she said finally. Okay. She blinked. Okay? Okay. If that's what you want, we'll get divorced. Just like that? Julia, you've been cheating on me and planning to leave me for weeks. I'm not going to beg you to stay. She looked confused, like she'd expected more of a fight. I'll need some time to figure out living arrangements, she said. And we'll need to discuss splitting our assets. Sure, we can let the lawyers handle all that. Good. That's good. I'm glad we can be mature about this. I nodded. Very mature. Oh, and Julia, you might want to read that prenup again, just to refresh your memory on how asset splitting works. The color drained from her face as I walked upstairs, leaving her alone with the consequences of her choices. Julia spent the weekend frantically reading legal documents and making phone calls. I could hear her pacing in the guest bedroom, where she'd moved her things, talking in hushed, urgent tones. Daddy, I need you to call your lawyer. No, I can't explain over the phone. Yes, it's about the prenup. Eric, we have a problem. No, a big problem. Can you come over? Carla, I need a favor. Can you recommend a good divorce attorney? I stayed in my office, working on actual projects and pretending not to notice the panic happening down the hall. Monday morning, Julia cornered me in the kitchen. See, I think we should talk about this divorce thing. Maybe we're being hasty. Are you still planning to be with Eric? That's complicated. It's not complicated. Are you in love with him or not? She hesitated just long enough to give me my answer. I think we should try counseling first, she said. Julia, you told me our marriage was over. You said you wanted a divorce. I'm just giving you what you asked for. But I didn't mean immediately. These things take time. Negotiation. What's to negotiate? You want out? I'm letting you out. Her phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it, and her face fell further. Eric? I asked. She nodded. Let me guess. He's having second thoughts about being with a woman who's about to lose everything in a divorce? It's not like that. What's it like? She sat down at the kitchen table, looking defeated. He thinks we should wait until after the divorce is final to go public with our relationship. For optics. Smart man. Wouldn't want to be associated with a cheating wife. Stop calling me that. What would you prefer? Adulterer? Unfaithful spouse? I prefer Julia. I'm still a person, see? She was right, and I felt a twinge of guilt. But then I remembered the photos, the lies, the months of deception. You're right. I'm sorry. This is just a lot to process. For both of us. My phone rang. Donnie. I need to take this, I told Julia. See, my friend at the family law firm can see you this afternoon if you want to get the ball rolling on the divorce papers. That fast? With a prenup this solid? Yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. The only question is whether you want to file on grounds of adultery or just irreconcilable differences. I looked at Julia, who was pretending not to listen, while obviously hanging on every word. Let me think about it. I'll call you back. After I hung up, Julia looked at me with something that might have been hope. You don't have to file on adultery grounds, she said quietly. Why not? It's true. Because it doesn't have to be ugly. We can both walk away with our dignity intact. Will Eric walk away with his dignity intact? She flinched. What do you mean? I mean, does his wife know about your creative collaboration? Julia's face went white. His wife? Eric is married, Julia. Did you not know that? The look on her face told me she absolutely had not known that. That's impossible. He would have told me. Would he? Let me ask you something. In all those photos on your iPad, did Eric ever take you to his place? She thought about it. No, but he said he was between apartments, staying with a friend. His friend is his wife, Julia. Her name is Michelle. They live in Brookline. They've been married for 8 years. I pulled out my phone and showed her Eric's Facebook profile, which I'd looked up over the weekend. There he was, smiling with a pretty brunette woman in dozens of photos dating back years. Recent photos showed them at dinner parties, family gatherings, vacation spots. Julia stared at the screen like it was showing her a car accident. He lied to me, she whispered. Yeah, he did. But we were planning, he said after your divorce we could. He said what you needed to hear to keep you sleeping with him. She started crying then, not the pretty tears she used in her Instagram stories, but ugly, heartbroken sobs. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt sorry for her. Julia, I'm such an idiot, she said through her tears. I threw away our marriage for a man who was lying to me the entire time. Yeah, you did. She looked up at me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Is there any chance? Could we try to work this out? Do you love me? She was quiet for a long time. I don't know anymore. I thought I did, but then I met Eric and felt things I hadn't felt in years. That's your answer right there. But those feelings were based on lies. The feelings you had for Eric were real, even if Eric wasn't who you thought he was. And the feelings you stopped having for me were real too. She nodded, wiping her eyes. So what do we do now? Now you call Eric and ask him about his wife, and I call my lawyer and file for divorce. On adultery grounds? I thought about it. Julia had been lied to and manipulated by Eric, but she'd still made the choice to cheat on me. She'd still planned to take half my assets and leave me for another man. Yeah, on adultery grounds. That afternoon, while Julia was having what sounded like a very loud, very angry phone call with Eric, I met with Donnie's friend Sarah Chen at her law office in downtown Boston. This is one of the most ironclad prenups I've ever seen, Sarah said, flipping through the pages. Your wife essentially waived her rights to everything except what she brought into the marriage. What does that mean in practical terms? It means she keeps her trust fund, her personal belongings, and her car, which I see here is also in her name and was a gift from her parents. Everything else stays with you. The house, your business, your savings, even the social media accounts and brand partnerships built around your marriage. What about spousal support? Waived in the prenup, specifically in cases of adultery. So she gets nothing? She gets exactly what she agreed she should get if she cheated on you. A clean break and her personal assets. I signed the papers that afternoon. Sarah filed them with the court that same day. When I got home, Julia was sitting on the couch with her laptop, looking shell-shocked. How did your conversation with Eric go? I asked. He hung up on me, after admitting that yes, he's married, and no, he never planned to leave his wife. I'm sorry. Are you? Really? I thought about it. Yeah, I am. Not sorry that you're facing consequences, but sorry that you got hurt. She nodded. I deserve this, all of it. The divorce papers have been filed. Adultery grounds? Adultery grounds. She closed her laptop. How long do I have? To move out? Technically, you can stay until the divorce is final, but you'd prefer I didn't. I'd prefer we both start moving on with our lives. Where am I supposed to go? I can't go back to my parents. They're furious about the divorce. All my friends are going to take your side once this gets out. What about Carla and Paige? Julia laughed bitterly. Carla knew about Eric. She was covering for me. And Paige only likes me when I'm successful and happy. A divorced cheater isn't good for her image. You'll figure it out. Will the first? See, my entire life was built around being your wife. My social media, my brand partnerships, my identity. Without that, you'll build something new. With what money? My trust fund will cover rent for maybe 6 months, and I haven't had a real job in 3 years. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on me. She nodded. You're right. This is my mess. I'll clean it up. The next morning, Julia started packing. She worked methodically, sorting through 3 years of accumulated belongings, deciding what was hers and what was ours. Can I take the coffee maker? She asked. It was a wedding gift from your aunt. The throw pillows? You picked them out. The good towels? Those were mine before we got married. It went on like that for hours. Julia, realizing how little of our shared life was actually hers, her phone kept buzzing with notifications. Word of our divorce was starting to spread through her social media circles. Carla posted about it, Julia said, staring at her phone. She's positioning herself as the friend who saw the signs and tried to help. What signs? According to her, I was clearly unhappy and struggling in my marriage, and she encouraged me to seek counseling. Did she encourage you to seek counseling? She encouraged me to sleep with Eric. Julia's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and declined it. Eric? Eric's wife. That evening, Julia's parents showed up unannounced. I heard their car in the driveway and watched through the window as Mr. and Mrs. Dubois marched up to our front door like they were storming a castle. I opened the door before they could knock. Mr. and Mrs. Dubois, this is a surprise. Where is our daughter? Mrs. Dubois demanded. Upstairs packing. Come on in. They swept into the living room like they owned the place, which, given their attitude toward money, they probably thought they did. Simon, Mr. Dubois said, we need to discuss this divorce situation. What about it? Julia made a mistake, a foolish, immature mistake. But surely we can work something out that doesn't involve destroying her life. I'm not destroying her life. I'm ending our marriage. On adultery grounds, Mrs. Dubois spat. Do you have any idea what that will do to our family's reputation? About as much damage as your daughter cheating on her husband, I'd imagine. Julia appeared at the top of the stairs. Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? Trying to clean up your mess, her mother replied. Julia came downstairs slowly, like she was walking to her execution. Seaman, Mr. Dubois said, what will it take to make this go away? Make what go away? The adultery filing. The public embarrassment. Surely we can come to some arrangement. I stared at him. Are you trying to bribe me? I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone. The solution is simple. Your daughter cheated on me. I'm divorcing her, and she's going to face the consequences of her actions. Those consequences will destroy her career, her social standing, her future prospects. Then maybe she should have considered that before she started sleeping with a married man. Mrs. Dubois gasped. A married man? Julia closed her eyes. Mom, Julia Elizabeth Dubois, please tell me you did not have an affair with a married man. His name is Eric Lambert, I said helpfully. He's been using your daughter to cheat on his own wife while planning to string her along indefinitely. Mr. Dubois sat down heavily in my chair. Jesus Christ, Julia. Daddy, I didn't know he was married. That doesn't matter, her mother shrieked. You were married. To Simon. I know that. Do you? Because your behavior suggests you forgot you had a husband. I almost felt bad for Julia. Almost. Look, I said. This is between Julia and me. You don't need to be involved. Like hell we don't, Mr. Dubois said. She's our daughter. And despite her poor choices, we're not going to let her be destroyed by this. What exactly do you think you can do? We can hire the best divorce attorney in Boston. We can fight this prenup. We can make your life very difficult, Simon. I pulled out my phone and called Sarah Chen. Sarah, it's Simon Carter. I'm here with my wife's parents, and they're threatening to contest our prenup. Yes, I'll put you on speaker. Sarah's voice filled the room. Mr. and Mrs. Dubois, I presume? I'm Sarah Chen, Mr. Carter's attorney. I understand you have concerns about the divorce proceedings. We want to contest the prenuptial agreement, Mr. Dubois said. On what grounds? Coercion? Duress? Inadequate representation? Mr. Dubois, your daughter was represented by Whitman, Brooks and Associates when she signed that prenup. That's one of the most prestigious family law firms in Massachusetts. She had 3 weeks to review the document, and she signed it willingly in front of witnesses. She was in love. She wasn't thinking clearly. Being in love isn't grounds for voiding a legal contract. And given that your daughter has admitted to adultery, the prenup's infidelity clauses are now in effect. What does that mean? Mrs. Dubois asked. It means your daughter forfeited any claim to marital assets when she chose to have an affair. She'll leave this marriage with exactly what she brought into it. Mr. Dubois, the silence in the room was deafening. How much? Mr. Dubois asked finally. I'm sorry? Sarah said. How much will it cost to make the adultery charges go away? Dad, Julia protested. Mr. Dubois, Sarah said. You're suggesting that your son-in-law commit extortion. That's a felony. I'm suggesting we find a mutually beneficial solution. The mutually beneficial solution is for your daughter to accept responsibility for her actions and move on with her life. After Sarah hung up, the Dubois family sat in stunned silence. This is really happening, Mrs. Dubois said finally. This is really happening, I confirmed. Mr. Dubois stood up. Julia, get your things. You're coming home with us. Dad, I'm 34 years old, and you're about to be a divorced woman with no income and no prospects. You'll take what help you can get. Julia looked at me one last time. See, I really am sorry for all of it. I know you are. Do you think, someday, we might be able to be friends? I thought about it. Maybe. After we've both moved on. She nodded and went upstairs to get her suitcases. An hour later, I watched the Dubois family drive away with Julia in the back seat, looking like a teenager who'd been grounded. For the first time in months, my house was quiet. I poured myself a beer and sat on my couch, in my house, in my life, and started planning what came next. The divorce would be final in a few weeks. Julia would have to start over, but she'd survive. She was tougher than she looked, and smarter than her recent choices suggested. Eric would have to explain to his wife why his name was about to be in divorce papers as a co-respondent in an adultery case. That was his problem now. And me? I'd learned some valuable lessons about trust, communication, and reading the fine print. My phone buzzed with a text from Donnie. How are you holding up? I typed back. Better than expected. Turns out that Prenup was the best investment I ever made. Drinks tomorrow to celebrate your freedom? Sounds perfect. I looked around my empty house and smiled. It really was perfect. For the first time in months, I was exactly where I wanted to be.